When my friend Charlie Rizzo started telling me about his father being in prison, I imagined him. Here he is, 22 years old. He's newly blind. He's in an 8 by 12 foot cell with, at the time, the most heinous criminal in the country. No wonder he wanted to commit suicide, because um, he just thinks I've really screwed up. There was this little tiny bit of light that came to him in that prison, and it came through this man that had murdered a 14-year-old boy for the thrill of it. And he did it through the vehicle of great literature by having him read Dante's Inferno, the perfect parallel or metaphor. Just as Dante had Virgil to guide him, Matt Rizzo had Nathan Leopold Jr. as his Virgil to help guide him through the dark mazes of Stateville Prison, being built in a panopticon design as a roundhouse.
The hunting accent, it's about many things, but I think ultimately it's about the power of literature, or I guess you could say more broadly of art, to free you from, it's symbolically freeing a man getting freed from prison. How delving into art, you can elevate yourself out from where you started.
So the challenge that I had in writing this story was that my protagonist was blind. I wanted the reader to be able to see the world through the eyes of my protagonist. I realized that we could go into Matt Rizzo's imagination. And then by going into his imagination, which Landis did beautifully with his illustrations, we were able to see the world that he was seeing and to explore what that blindness is like. And I had this little idea, this little glimpse that, like, oh, even if I was blind, I think I could survive it, because there's still beauty in the world, even without my sight.
We had these different levels of reality, and so what's interesting is anybody who reads literature, any work of literature, you're visualizing something. You're as you're reading it, you're trying to picture what's happening, and so anybody that's reading Dante is going to be doing that.
Silence has a profound impact on our species. In the beginning was the word. When there is imposed silence, imposed isolation, that is a way of controlling the species. It's a way of controlling people by silencing any kind of opposition. It takes away our humanity.
It's the ultimate punishment as far as isolation goes. Maybe even more so with silence as compared to blindness, though. With silence, you are completely confronted with yourself.
So here's Matt Rizzo in the darkest place of his life that he's ever been, and the way he learns to find a path out of that darkness is through his fingertips, where he learns Braille. And then the words that he's exposed to are the words of Dante, this poem that is painting a picture of a world that he's very viscerally experiencing in the moment. He's in this hell right now. He's in and literally a panopticon circular hell. I think it's the power of those words, the power of poetry, the power of language used in this way to paint pictures in his imagination that began to lead him out of darkness into a different kind of seeing, a different kind of way of knowing, even without sight, that physical sight. Well, I was very fortunate to have, on the one hand, Dante's incredible poem to work with. And on the other hand, I had Landis Blair working with me to present these images in the graphic novel. So I really left it up to him and to his imagination as to how he was interpreting what the experience was for Matt Rizzo. At times, I didn't even want to know what was going on in Landis's imagination when it got into those really dark areas. I just thought, okay, yeah, that's you. And I'd say, well, we don't need to say that, or we don't need to say that anymore, because visually he was representing so much of the story.
David gave me a lot of freedom, especially at the beginning. And so essentially, I'm not sure how much he told you, but that essentially when he brought me on to work on this project with him, he had a movie script that he had written of the story, and he gave it to me, and he wanted me to create thumbnails. So I spent about 2.5 to 3 months just reading through the script and you're doing all these tiny illustrations and kind of scrapping them, and just let kind of my imagination completely dive into the story. If you look at a lot of those thumbnails now compared to the final illustration, some of the most imaginative or more creative solutions to those problems were solved in that small thumbnail.
One of my favorite parts of the story is when the young boy, Charlie, says to his father, "Why do you bother writing poetry? Nobody cares." And he says, "All men are poets, Charlie. We're always using words to describe our experience. The naming is how the soul finds its place in the divine order." To me, that is really the power of literature to transform a life, comes through the naming that we do. You know, Adam and Eve in the garden were charged with naming everything. The naming is what we do as humans to construct and manifest our reality.
The best one I can think of off the top of my head that dealing with silence is there's a section where Matt and Nathan are outside in the snow. Matt is talking about how the snow is changing the environment, that he feels oppressed by it because the sound is all muffled. It's especially poignant because he's already dealing with the loss of sight. And so this one sense he has to navigate, now when he's out in the snow, he feels like he's choking.